So what we're doing today? Oh yeah, right. So we're going to build up this this gantry section. So we've got two of these guide rods, these cross slides to install. So we've got two of them to install. We'll have the another Acme thread to push the carriage and the spindle assembly from left to right. We're going to have the very cunningly designed spindle assembly with its electric motor, its stepper motor on it. So we've got that to install. We've got the usual collection of a stepper motor here to make this spindle slide from left to right via the Acme screw. Yeah. Got some more of these, what do you call them? Some more of these support blocks, these clamp blocks, which fix these cross slides to the gantry section. So we've got to put them in, and we've got an end bracket to support the Acme screw. So that's going to do something like that. And here's another of the metal plates to hold the stepper motor onto our gantry framework. So we've got a few little jobs to do there, haven't we? But I think these are quite large components and everything looks quite easy to get at. So I think this should come together quite quickly. If it does come together, maybe we'll move on and have a look at installing the circuit board. But we'll just have to see how far we get today. I'm trying not to make these videos too long. As you can tell, I'm not doing too much editing. I'm really just filming it as I build it. So you're pretty much getting the build in real time, which I'm sure for some of you might find a little bit boring, because it inevitably means it's just a little bit slow watching me fix screws and stuff like that. But, well, if you wanted entertainment, you wouldn't be watching my videos, would you? I think it does give us some information here about how we proceed to install things. Yeah, okay, so the first thing we've got to do is we've got to install the first of the rods, first of the cross slide rods. So we fit the bracket on the right hand side first, and I'm assuming we roughly level everything up then, and then we fit the bracket on the left hand side, and then and I'm guessing that almost becomes a reference point. You set that rod there, the top slide. We'll set that one first, and once we've set that, that becomes a reference for installing the second of the cross slides. So, and it does give us a bit of a tightening sequence here for you know, the sequence in which we need to install those parts. So, oh, and then we've got to install the spindle, and we've got the Acme screw, and the Acme screw has got the nut in it like we saw before, but it's also got one of these separate nuts which has got a spring pressing it against it. So we've got one of these anti-backlash devices as well to install. Right, let's crack on. I'm afraid everything's all a little bit messy. My little workshop looks like a bomb's hit it, because you know, I've been effectively living in here for the last 3 days just trying to escape the Christmas festivities. Not that we have a great deal of Christmas festivities. Well, actually we don't really have any, but I'm still escaping up into my room. It's actually the warmest room in the house, this. I live in quite a big, drafty, cold old house. It's absolutely freezing in winter. We have bottled gas, and it's very expensive to heat, so basically most of the winter months we just freeze to death. But surprisingly enough, I do just about manage to keep my my room nice and toasty and warm. These feel as though, I think they're actually probably a little bit too small, some of these screws. I feel as though they're really only just going into these brackets. Basically the section through these brackets is a little bit thicker than some of the other material, and yet all the screws are the same length. So the upshot of which is I think we're only getting a few threads worth of engagement in here. Again, basically what I think we'll do is we'll just eyeball it and we'll adjust it later. Come on, get in. Oh, this one feels a little bit tighter. Just see if I can spread the bracket a little bit. Well, I managed to get that jammed. Well done, me. Oh, got that in, but we need the cross slide, don't we? So let's put that on. Right, okay, how does that look? Guess that'll do. Just nip that up then. Okay, so we got that on okay. So this knitting needle that I've got that's got a piece of blue tack stuck on it has definitely been the most useful tool of the build, because it's just allowed me to very easily install these T-nuts into this aluminium section. Well, it seems to do a little bit of a seesaw as it goes backwards and forwards at the moment. So let's just nip it up at that side. I've got a feeling that I'm probably going to end up undoing some of these again to try and set the cross slide level with the table. So again, as I keep saying, I don't think there's any point in tightening anything up ridiculously tightly, because it's probably going to have to come undone again to make the final leveling adjustments. I always have the wrong Allen key in my hand. Starting to look like a milling machine, isn't it now? I must say I apologise if I've deafened any of you with my coughing. I've been coughing a lot on these videos. I'm full of a cold, really. Well, no, that's a bit of an exaggeration. Bit of man flu. I'm not too bad, but I do have a bit of a cold at the moment. Ooh, a bit of oil on there. So I don't feel so bad, but I've just got this cough that I can't shake off, and I suspect it's probably going to be with me for the rest of the winter now, annoyingly. I suspect that this little machine has got kind of a lot of things you could do to improve it, because as you can see it's made from all this aluminium extrusion, but you could very easily just stiffen up, because one of the most important things about any kind of milling machine like this is it's all about the stiffness of everything, so you don't get any deflection in any of the structures when it's cutting. And it would actually be very easy just to actually you know, make some sides for this thing and maybe fill this back panel in here, make a solid aluminium back panel which would, you know, go down there. And I think that would actually make everything a lot more rigid. I mean, I'm not certain that it actually needs it. It might be rigid enough, but you could certainly you could tweak this thing until your heart's content. I can see a few people that have changed this spindle arrangement for something better, or put a better, higher speed spindle motor on it, because it does all feel a little bit crude, this arrangement. So, you know, if you're the sort of thing that likes tinkering and modifying things, then you could have a lot of fun playing with this. And again, I was looking on eBay last night, and if you want to wait a few weeks for it, I think there's people selling this for as little as £130 from China, whereas I think there is some UK stock of these machines from, well, I think actually I saw some, again, just over £150. So I've had 3 or 4 days fun with this for, you know, £170. I suspect the total build time, well, I would have thought it'll be somewhere in the order of 6 hours, maybe a little bit quicker. I've been drinking lots of tea and putting my feet up and watching lots of things on YouTube, so I haven't exactly been spending the whole holidays working on this. I've probably just spent an hour a day or so on it. Well, I think the next thing we can install is this I keep calling it a lead screw. I suppose a lead screw has a particular meaning for a lathe, really, doesn't it? But we're going to install this screw next, which controls this cross travel. And just like the work table, the actual there's a nut in there, but we've also got this anti-backlash nut. So all we have to do is we've got to push this. Oh, maybe I'll bring you in so you can see it. So you can see we've got this cavity in here, and this nut here fits into the cavity, and it can't turn because well, the cavity traps it. It traps these wings on it here. So what we've got to do is we've got to put that in like that, and you've got to press the spring in to put some preload on it. And then what we have to do is we have to screw the screw in from the other side. Now I can't do that on camera because basically the tripod and everything is in my way, so I'm going to have to turn it around so I can do it. I'm afraid you won't be able to see it. I'm pressing that nut into its cavity now with my finger. And now I've got to thread this through both pieces of, through both nuts, sorry. So I've just entered the first nut at the moment. And I think I can feel that I've just gone through the second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble the motor first, and I'm pretty sure the motor goes on that side, although I suppose it probably doesn't make any difference. So I'm just going to move the the motor up to this side of the screw, move the spindle, sorry, to this side of the screw, because I think that's going to best align the stepper motor when we install that. Oh, not particularly good Allen keys, just rounded off that one slightly. And here's the motor coupling. And as I said, it was a little bit disappointing that these are just couplings, they're not flexible couplings. Normally when I've seen CNC machines, this coupling has some kind of saw marks along its flank, if you like, which just allows it to flex and take up any misalignment between the shaft and the motor. But this doesn't have that. So it's got the bigger end here that fits onto the Acme thread. I'm just backing the screws off at the moment. And then we've got the little end here which goes onto the motor shaft. So the motor does have a flat on it there, so I'm just trying to engage the grub screw on that flat. Hopefully it'll find its own way anyway. Oh, actually that needs a washer on it. I bet you guys are really sick of looking at the back of my hands, aren't you? Strange really when you're trying to film stuff. Whatever you do, you end up you know, covering up the thing you want to film. Wrong Allen key. Of course it is. And you know, I was complaining before about some of these screws being too short. Well, I can feel that these are too long. They're binding at the bottom of the aluminium extrusion before they're actually tightening up. So I think I need to put a few stack washers on there. See if 2 washers is enough. And if that one's binding up, it kind of makes me think that some of the others might be as well. Yeah, that's got it. So we'll just put 2 washers on this just to take up a little bit of the thread. Who's Fred? I don't know. Just want to keep all these a little bit loose while the motor finds its own way. I don't know why I'm making it hard for myself. Maybe I should just turn it around so I can see what I'm actually doing. That doesn't seem very level. Let's have another go. Yeah, what I was trying to say is I put this bottom bracket on before, and I'm wondering if the screws have what's the word for it, when have bottomed out. I'm wondering if this screw thread here, the end of the screw, is actually bottomed out before it's managed to clamp this plate as tightly as it should have done. So I might put another washer behind there, because obviously it's all the same extrusion and it's the same, effectively the same motor brackets. So yeah, we'll probably put another washer behind them as well. Okay. So I'm just going to slightly tighten up the motor mounts now. Sorry, where the shaft engages. I think these are going to come undone. I suspect they're going to need some goop on them. These Allen keys really do feel just like the kind of things that are these grub screws, sorry, the sort of thing that you just tighten them that little bit more and then you round the heads off them and then you're stuffed, and either, you know, you can't get them out, or you know, that kind of thing anyway. Right, we'll just wind the motor all the way to this other side now, and then we'll just tighten up this bearing, this support bearing, the other end of the screw. was holding my breath then, don't know why. So I would have thought that this really did want a washer on it. I think this is going to be a little bit fiddly to fit. Wrong Allen key. Oh, okay. Well, okay, it wasn't fiddly to fit. It was very easy. Right, there we go. Again, I'm not riving on it because I think I could damage the plastic if I wasn't careful. Well, I'm just playing here. I'm just playing with the little, I don't know if you call it, the little chuck assembly that goes on the end of the spindle. So I thought I might just try installing that and maybe see if we can fit a drill or a little tool into here and have a go at just moving it from left to right to see how level it is. And maybe if it's not level, we can just crudely level it. I wouldn't have thought that this little chuck assembly is going to hold up too well. And I'm sure it probably isn't going to be particularly well balanced either, for that matter. So that needs to go onto there somehow. I might come back later and put some thread lock on there. Well, unfortunately I did manage to lose the audio for this last section of video. Unfortunately I forgot to switch on the wireless microphone. Now I did actually try to get a proper measurement of how level the bed was, so I've just installed a drill bit into the spindle. First of all I did try installing a dial test indicator and running it over the surface of the table as we move the spindle from left to right. But unfortunately I couldn't get the dial test indicator, I couldn't clamp it on. There was nothing to actually fix anything down to because a lot of this spindle assembly is all made out of plastic, apart from the motor itself, which is a curved surface. So I was really hoping I could have, like I say, run the DTI gauge over it. So what I did do was I found an old piece of plastic and I sandwiched that between the end of a drill bit installed in the spindle and the actual table, and then I just moved the table from left to right and moved the card underneath the drill bit to see if it was dragging or if it was pinching at any point. And what I actually found out was that the table was actually surprisingly level from one side to another, but it did seem to have some high points on it, and what those high points appeared to coincide with was where the actual where the nut under the table and where the support brackets are bolted to it. So I think that when we actually screwed up the brackets on the underside of the table, I think that's causing it to deflect slightly. It's pinching it, and unfortunately that's resulting in some high spots. But from left to right, it did appear to be reasonably level. One of the things that I said originally is that the table has got a bit of a belly in it, it's bowed in the middle, but that didn't really seem to be too much of a problem. Well, I'm not sure whether these tests are actually going to be very useful or not. If anything, I think they've maybe shown that the table isn't as far out as it could be. It's reasonably level. Whether or not that'll actually translate into producing a good milling cut, who can tell? I've got no idea. And I'm also not sure how well the spindle is actually trammed in with the surface of the table either, which can be really quite an important setting. That's just to make sure that the cutter is presented at 90 degrees to the workpiece. Certainly on a big mill, the tramming is very, very important. If it's not trammed correctly, you can have all kinds of problems. And I believe it can be even worse if you're using a very small end mill, because to get the best out of a very small end mill, you've got to run at high speed and you've got everything against you, really. But I think what I'm basically saying is we're just going to have to suck it and see, aren't we? We'll have a go with it. If it's not any good, we'll have to see if we can twiddle it and improve it a little bit. Well, I think there we've just about reached a logical conclusion, so I think we should call it a day. So, as always, thanks very much for watching, and until next time, that'll do. Bye for now.